Maya Rodriguez had always known she was different from the other girls in her small Texas town. While they spent their afternoons at the mall or gossiping about boys, she was in her backyard running obstacle courses her father had built from old tires and wooden planks. Her dad, a retired Army sergeant, had raised her alone after her mother died when Maya was 12. He never treated her like she was fragile or needed protection. Instead, he pushed her harder than he had ever pushed anyone. The morning everything changed started like any other Tuesday. Maya was finishing her pre-dawn 5-mile run when she saw the moving truck parked outside the old Henderson house. The property had been empty for 3 years, ever since old Mrs. Henderson passed away. Maya slowed her pace, curious about who would choose to live in the run-down 2-story house with its peeling paint and overgrown yard. A tall man emerged from the house wearing cargo pants and a plain black t-shirt. Even from a distance, Maya could tell he moved differently than most people. His posture was straight but relaxed, his head constantly scanning the area like he was assessing threats that didn't exist in their quiet neighborhood. When he turned in her direction, she saw a face marked by sun and experience, with eyes that seemed to see everything. Maya continued her run, but she couldn't shake the feeling that the stranger's arrival would somehow change things. She had no idea how right she was. Later that morning at Jefferson High School, Maya sat in the back of her chemistry class, half listening to Mr. Patterson drone on about molecular bonds. Her mind kept wandering to the military recruiting pamphlets hidden in her locker. The Army, Navy, and Marines had all sent representatives to their school, but Maya was drawn to something else entirely. She had read everything she could find about special operations forces, about the elite units that operated in the shadows. The problem was simple and frustrating. Women weren't allowed in combat roles, and they definitely weren't allowed in special operations. Maya had excellent grades, could outrun most of the boys on the track team, and had been practicing martial arts since she was 8. None of that mattered if the doors were closed before she even tried to walk through them. During lunch, her best friend Jessica brought up the subject that everyone was talking about. The school's ROTC program was struggling. Their instructor, Major Williams, was nearing retirement and seemed to have lost his passion for teaching. The program that had once been the pride of Jefferson High was now seen as a joke. Only 12 students remained enrolled, down from nearly 50 just 2 years earlier. "My brother says they might cancel the whole program," Jessica said, picking at her salad. "The principal thinks it's a waste of money." Maya felt a knot form in her stomach. The ROTC program was her lifeline, the one place at school where her interests and abilities were valued. She was one of only 3 girls in the program, and while some of the boys occasionally made snide comments about girls playing soldier, Major Williams had always treated her fairly. That afternoon, Maya arrived at the ROTC classroom 15 minutes early, as she always did. She liked to use the quiet time to review the day's lesson plan and prepare her equipment. As the cadet battalion commander, she felt responsible for setting an example, even though some of the other cadets resented taking orders from a girl. Major Williams looked tired as he entered the classroom. His usually crisp uniform was wrinkled, and he moved with the slow deliberation of someone carrying a heavy burden. Maya had heard rumors that he was dealing with personal problems, something about his son getting into trouble with drugs, but she had never asked about it directly. "Attention!" Maya called out as the other cadets filed in. They formed up in reasonably straight lines. Though she noticed that Tommy Martinez was wearing dirty boots again and Sarah Chen's hair was out of regulation. Major Williams went through the motions of inspecting the formation, but his heart clearly wasn't in it. He assigned them basic drill movements and then retreated to his desk, leaving Maya to run most of the class. She didn't mind the responsibility, but she could see that some of the cadets were starting to lose respect for the program. After class, Maya was walking to her car when she saw the stranger from that morning standing near the school's flagpole. He was studying the building with the same intense focus she had noticed earlier. When he saw her approaching, he smiled and extended his hand. "You must be Maya Rodriguez," he said. "I'm Jack Morgan. I just moved into the neighborhood." Maya shook his hand, surprised by the firmness of his grip and the fact that he knew her name. "Nice to meet you, Mr. Morgan. How do you know who I am?" Jack's smile widened. "I did some research after I saw you running this morning." Anyone who maintains that pace for 5 miles at 6 a.m. either has demons chasing them or serious discipline. I asked around and learned you're the standout in the ROTC program here. Research? Maya felt a chill of suspicion. What kind of research? The harmless kind, Jack assured her. I'm thinking about volunteering with youth programs in the area. Military training has always been important to me, and I understand your program might use some help. Maya studied his face, trying to read the truth behind his words. There was something about Jack Morgan that didn't add up. He was too alert, too controlled, too aware of his surroundings for a regular civilian. What's your military background, Mr. Morgan? Navy, he said simply. 20 years. Retired last month? What did you do in the Navy? Jack paused for a moment as if deciding how much to reveal. Special operations. I can't really talk about the specifics, but I spent most of my career in small unit tactics and unconventional warfare. Maya's pulse quickened. Special operations meant he could be a SEAL, or at least someone who worked closely with them. Why do you want to help with high school ROTC? Seems like a step down from special ops. Maybe, Jack said. But I've learned that some of the most important battles are fought right here at home. Young people like you are the future of our military. If we don't invest in that future, all the special operations in the world won't matter. Before Maya could respond, Major Williams appeared from the school building. He looked even more exhausted than he had during class, and Maya noticed his hands were shaking slightly. When he saw Jack, his expression changed from tired resignation to wariness. Can I help you with something? Major Williams asked. Jack introduced himself and explained his interest in volunteering with the ROTC program. Major Williams listened politely, but Maya could see he was uncomfortable with the idea. After 20 years of military service, he probably wasn't eager to have someone looking over his shoulder, especially someone from an elite unit. We appreciate the offer, Major Williams said carefully, but we have everything under control. Maya watched the exchange with growing frustration. The ROTC program was falling apart, and Major Williams was too proud to accept help. She could see that Jack was disappointed but unsurprised by the response. If you change your mind, Jack said, handing Major Williams a business card. I'm available. Maya, it was nice meeting you. I hope we'll have a chance to talk again. As Jack walked away, Maya made a decision that would change everything. Mr. Morgan, wait. He turned back, eyebrows raised. Would you be willing to talk to me about military careers? Off the record, just as a neighbor? Jack glanced at Major Williams, who was frowning but didn't object. Sure. How about Saturday morning? I usually run the trail behind the school at 7. Maya nodded eagerly. I'll be there. That night, Maya lay in bed thinking about the strange encounter. Jack Morgan was clearly more than just a retired Navy veteran looking to volunteer with teenagers. His bearing, his alertness, his careful way of speaking all pointed to someone who had operated at the highest levels of military service. The question was why someone like that would be interested in a struggling high school ROTC program. She thought about the recruiting pamphlets in her locker and the closed doors that seemed to block every path she wanted to pursue. Maybe Jack Morgan represented an opportunity she hadn't considered. Maybe there was more than one way to serve her country at the highest level. Saturday morning arrived gray and misty, with the kind of cool air that made running a pleasure instead of a chore. Maya arrived at the trailhead 5 minutes early, stretching against her car while she waited. Jack appeared exactly at 7, wearing running shoes that looked like they had seen serious use, and a navy t-shirt that was faded but well-maintained. They started running at an easy pace, side by side on the narrow dirt trail. For the first mile, neither of them spoke. Maya was surprised to find that Jack matched her stride naturally, never pushing ahead or falling behind. Most of the people she ran with either tried to show off by going too fast or held her back by going too slow. Tell me about your goals, Jack said, as they crested a small hill. He wasn't breathing hard despite the pace they were maintaining. I want to serve, Maya said simply. Not just serve, but really make a difference. I want to be in the fight, not sitting behind a desk or working in a support role. What kind of fight? Maya hesitated. It was the kind of question that could make her sound naive or bloodthirsty if she answered wrong. The kind where it matters, where lives hang in the balance and the mission can't fail. Jack nodded approvingly. That's a good answer. Specific enough to be meaningful, general enough to show you understand the complexity. What have you done to prepare for that kind of responsibility? Maya told him about her training routine, her martial arts practice, her academic performance, and her leadership role in ROTC. She explained how she had studied military history and tactics, reading everything from Sun Tzu to modern counterinsurgency manuals. She talked about her father's influence and the values he had instilled in her. Jack listened without interruption, occasionally nodding or asking a clarifying question. When Maya finished, they ran in silence for several minutes while he processed what she had told him. "You're serious about this," he said finally. "Most kids your age think military service is about the uniforms and the glory. You understand it's about sacrifice and responsibility." "Yes, sir." "Stop calling me sir. I work for a living," Jack said with a grin that made him look younger. "Here's the thing, Maya. The world is changing faster than the military bureaucracy can adapt. There are opportunities coming that don't exist yet, but they will. The question is whether you'll be ready when those doors open." "What kind of opportunities?" Jack slowed to a walk as they reached a scenic overlook. The town spread out below them, peaceful and ordinary in the morning light. The kind that require people who can think independently, adapt quickly, and lead by example. The kind that don't care about your gender, just your capabilities. Maya felt her heart race, and it wasn't from the run. "Are you talking about special operations?" "I'm talking about being the best version of yourself," Jack said. "Everything else follows from that." They finished their run in companionable silence, and Maya went home with her head spinning with possibilities. Jack had been careful not to make any specific promises or revelations, but the implications of their conversation were clear. Change was coming to the military, and he was offering to help her be ready for it. Over the following weeks, Maya threw herself into her training with renewed intensity. She met Jack for runs twice a week, and each time he pushed her a little harder, both physically and mentally. He began incorporating military-style exercises into their workouts, teaching her techniques that weren't part of any high school curriculum. Meanwhile, the situation with the ROTC program continued to deteriorate. Major Williams missed 2 classes completely, leaving Maya to manage the cadets on her own. The principal called a meeting with the remaining students to discuss the possibility of canceling the program entirely. "It's not just about Major Williams," Principal Anderson explained. "Enrollment is down, funding is tight, and frankly, the district is questioning whether ROTC is still relevant in today's educational environment." Maya spoke up before any of the other cadets could respond. "Sir, with respect, that's exactly why the program is more important than ever. These kids need structure, discipline, and leadership training. The world isn't getting safer, and our country needs citizens who understand service and sacrifice." Principal Anderson looked surprised by her passionate response. "Ms. Rodriguez, I appreciate your dedication, but the reality is that we need qualified instructors and sustainable enrollment. Unless something changes dramatically in the next month, the program will be discontinued at the end of this semester." That night, Maya called her father to talk through the situation. Sergeant Rodriguez listened quietly as she explained about the program's problems and her frustration with Major Williams' decline. "Sounds like your instructor is dealing with something bigger than just work stress," her father said. "Men like us, we sometimes carry burdens we don't know how to share. Maybe what he needs is backup, not replacement." "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe this Jack Morgan fellow represents an opportunity for everyone, not just you. Sometimes pride has to take a back seat to the mission." Maya thought about her father's words as she lay in bed that night. Maybe the answer wasn't to work around Major Williams, but to find a way to support him while bringing in the help the program desperately needed. The next morning, she arrived at school early and went straight to Major Williams' classroom. She found him sitting at his desk, staring at an old photograph of himself in dress blues with a young man who looked like a younger version of himself. "Major Williams," Maya said softly. He looked up, quickly sliding the photograph into his desk drawer. "What can I do for you, Rodriguez?" "Sir, I want to talk to you about Mr. Morgan's offer to help with the program." Major Williams' expression hardened. "I told you, we don't need help from outsiders." "With respect, sir, I think we do. The program is dying and we both know it. Mr. Morgan has experience that could help us rebuild, make us stronger than we've ever been. You don't understand the politics involved, Major Williams said tiredly. Men like Morgan, they don't just volunteer out of the goodness of their hearts. They have agendas, connections, ways of taking over that you don't see coming. Maya took a deep breath, knowing she was about to cross a line that couldn't be uncrossed. Sir, what if he's not trying to take over? What if he's trying to help you succeed? Major Williams was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. My son is in rehab. Rodriguez, third time. Military families, we're supposed to have everything together, set the example. How can I teach discipline and values when I can't even save my own kid? Maya felt a wave of sympathy wash over her. Sir, nobody expects you to be perfect. We just need you to be here, to care about us the way you've always cared. Maybe Mr. Morgan can handle some of the technical training, while you focus on the leadership and mentorship that only you can provide. Before Major Williams could respond, there was a knock on the classroom door. Jack Morgan stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee and wearing a patient expression. Sorry to interrupt, Jack said. Major Williams, I was hoping we could talk. I brought coffee as a peace offering. Maya looked between the 2 men, recognizing a pivotal moment when she saw one. I'll leave you 2 alone, she said, gathering her things. As she walked toward the door, she heard Major Williams speak in a voice that carried decades of military tradition. Mr. Morgan, maybe it's time we had that conversation. Maya smiled as she closed the door behind her. Sometimes the most important victories happened in quiet classrooms before the real battle even began. The transformation of Jefferson High's ROTC program didn't happen overnight, but when it began, everyone noticed. Jack Morgan started coming to the school 3 times a week, always deferring to Major Williams in front of the cadets, but bringing a level of expertise that elevated everything they did. Maya watched the dynamic between the 2 men with fascination. Major Williams had initially been suspicious and defensive, but Jack's approach was masterful in its subtlety. He never contradicted the Major directly or showed off his superior knowledge. Instead, he would ask questions that led Major Williams to the answers Jack wanted him to reach, making suggestions that seemed to come naturally from their conversations. Rodriguez, front and center, Major Williams called out during their first joint training session. Maya jogged to the front of the formation, noticing that Jack was standing off to the side, observing but not interfering. Mr. Morgan has suggested that we incorporate some advanced leadership exercises into our curriculum, Major Williams announced. You'll be working directly with him to develop scenarios that challenge our cadets in ways we haven't before. Maya felt a surge of excitement mixed with nervousness. Working directly with Jack meant she would finally get to see what real special operations training looked like. Over the following weeks, she discovered that everything she thought she knew about military tactics was just the beginning. Jack's training methods were unlike anything in the standard ROTC manual. He taught them about situational awareness, making them practice walking through the school while identifying potential threats and escape routes. He introduced psychological exercises designed to test their decision-making under pressure. Most importantly, he taught them that leadership wasn't about giving orders, but about earning the trust and respect of the people who followed you. Fear is a tool, Jack explained to Maya during one of their private sessions. It can paralyze you, or it can sharpen your focus. The difference is training and mindset. In special operations, we don't eliminate fear. We learn to function despite it. He had her practice making split-second decisions while performing physically demanding tasks. She would be doing burpees or mountain climbers while he shouted scenarios at her, forcing her to think strategically while her body was under stress. You're in a convoy that's been hit by an IED. Your commanding officer is unconscious. You have wounded soldiers and enemy contact is imminent. What's your first priority? Establish security and assess casualties. Maya would answer between gasping breaths. Good. Your radio is damaged and you can't reach headquarters. What now? These exercises pushed Maya beyond anything she had experienced in regular ROTC training. Jack was preparing her for levels of responsibility that most people never faced, and she thrived under the pressure. The other cadets noticed the changes in Maya's leadership style. She had always been competent, But now she displayed a confidence and strategic thinking that commanded automatic respect. Even Tommy Martinez, who had made snide comments about taking orders from a girl, began following her directions without hesitation. Meanwhile, Major Williams seemed to rediscover his passion for teaching. Having Jack as a resource allowed him to focus on the aspects of leadership he loved most, while delegating the technical training to someone with more recent experience. The Major's personal problems hadn't disappeared, but having a sense of purpose again gave him strength to deal with them. "My son called last night," Major Williams told Maya one afternoon after class. "First time in 3 months. Says the rehab program is working this time, that he's finally ready to face his problems instead of running from them. Funny thing is, I think teaching you kids to face challenges head-on reminded me how to do it myself." Maya smiled, understanding that the Major was talking about more than just his son's addiction. "Sometimes helping others is how we help ourselves, sir." 3 months into Jack's involvement with the program, Principal Anderson called another meeting. This time, his message was very different from his previous warnings about cancellation. "I don't know what you people are doing over in ROTC," he said with a bemused expression, "but enrollment has tripled in the last month. We've got kids transferring from other schools specifically to join your program. The school board is asking questions about what changed." Maya exchanged a glance with Jack, who was sitting in the back of the room with his characteristic quiet alertness. They both knew that word was spreading about the quality of training available at Jefferson High, but neither of them had expected such dramatic results. "We've simply raised our standards," Major Williams said with quiet pride. "When you offer young people real challenges and genuine preparation for adult responsibilities, they respond positively." After the meeting, Jack pulled Maya aside. "Walk with me," he said, leading her toward the empty football field. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the grass as they settled onto the bleachers. "You've been working with us for 3 months," Jack said. "What have you learned?" Maya considered the question carefully. "I've learned that everything I thought I knew about leadership was surface level. Real leadership isn't about being the loudest person in the room or having the most authority. It's about making everyone around you better than they thought they could be." Jack nodded approvingly. "What else?" "I've learned that special operations isn't really about physical superiority or advanced weapons. It's about mindset, adaptability, and the ability to function effectively in chaos." "Good. Now tell me what you want." The directness of the question caught Maya off guard. "What I want?" "You've been dancing around it for months. You want to know if I'm a SEAL, what kind of missions I've been on, whether there might be opportunities for someone like you in special operations. Stop dancing and ask directly." Maya took a deep breath, feeling like she was standing at the edge of a cliff. "Are you a SEAL?" "Yes." "Have you been evaluating me this whole time?" "Yes." "Is there a reason you're telling me this now?" Jack was quiet for a long moment, watching a hawk circle overhead. "Because tomorrow some people are coming to observe our program. People who make decisions about the future direction of military training and recruitment. And because you need to understand that what happens next could change everything." Maya felt her pulse quicken. "What kind of people?" "The kind who are looking for the next generation of special operations personnel. The kind who understand that the old barriers are breaking down and that merit matters more than demographics." "Are you saying?" "I'm saying that change is coming whether we're ready or not. The question is whether you're prepared to be part of that change or just a bystander watching it happen." That night, Maya couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Jack's words and what tomorrow might bring. She had always dreamed of serving at the highest level, but the possibility had always seemed abstract, something to hope for rather than plan for. She thought about the journey that had brought her to this point. The early morning runs, the disciplined training, the countless hours studying military tactics and history. All of it had been leading to this moment, though she hadn't realized it at the time. The next morning arrived clear and bright, one of those perfect Texas days when the sky seemed impossibly blue and full of promise. Maya arrived at school an hour early, wanting to make sure everything was perfect for the observation. Jack was already there, along with 2 people Maya didn't recognize. One was a woman in her 40s wearing civilian clothes but with the unmistakable bearing of a military officer. The other was a man in his 50s with silver hair and intelligent eyes that seemed to assess everything around him. Maya, I'd like you to meet Colonel Sarah Chen and Dr. Michael Harrison, Jack said. They're here to evaluate some innovative training methods we've been developing. Colonel Chen stepped forward with a firm handshake. Ms. Rodriguez, Jack has told us quite a bit about you. We're looking forward to seeing your leadership in action. Dr. Harrison was more reserved but equally focused. We understand you've been instrumental in transforming this program. That kind of leadership ability is exactly what we're interested in observing. Major Williams arrived shortly after, followed by the other cadets. Maya could see that he was nervous about the observation, but Jack had prepared him well. The lesson plan they had developed showcased both traditional military training and the advanced techniques Jack had introduced. The morning exercises went smoothly. Maya led the cadets through a series of scenarios that demonstrated tactical thinking, teamwork, and adaptability. Colonel Chen and Dr. Harrison watched intently, occasionally taking notes or asking quiet questions of Jack. The real test came during the afternoon session, when Jack presented the cadets with a complex scenario that required them to work together to solve multiple interconnected problems. Maya found herself naturally taking charge, coordinating between different groups and making strategic decisions under pressure. Your communications are down, you have limited resources, and civilian lives are at stake, Jack announced. Rodriguez, you're the ranking officer on scene. What are your orders? Maya felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just a training exercise anymore. It was an audition for something much larger. She took a deep breath and began issuing orders, moving between groups to ensure coordination and adapting her strategy as new information became available. For 20 minutes, she directed the simulated operation with growing confidence. She could see Colonel Chen and Dr. Harrison watching her closely, noting how she handled pressure, made decisions, and inspired others to perform beyond their normal capabilities. When the exercise concluded, Jack gathered everyone in a circle for the debrief. This was always Maya's favorite part of training, when they analyzed what had worked, what hadn't, and what lessons could be applied to future situations. Rodriguez, Jack said, walk us through your decision-making process. Why did you choose the approach you took? Maya explained her reasoning, discussing the factors she had considered and the trade-offs inherent in each decision. She was honest about the moments when she had been uncertain, explaining how she had used available information and team input to make the best choices possible under pressure. Colonel Chen asked several follow-up questions, probing deeper into Maya's understanding of leadership principles and tactical thinking. Dr. Harrison focused more on her ability to adapt and learn, asking about how she had incorporated lessons from previous exercises into her current performance. After the formal observation ended, the visitors spent another hour in private discussion with Jack and Major Williams. Maya tried not to think about what they might be saying, but she couldn't help wondering if this was the opportunity Jack had been preparing her for. Finally, Colonel Chen approached her as she was gathering her equipment. Ms. Rodriguez, would you be willing to attend a special training program this summer? It would be challenging, demanding, and completely voluntary, but it would also provide opportunities that don't currently exist through traditional military channels. Maya felt her heart stop for a moment. What kind of training program? The kind that prepares exceptional individuals for exceptional responsibilities, Dr. Harrison said, joining the conversation. The kind that doesn't care about your gender, your background, or conventional limitations. Only your potential. Maya looked across the field to where Jack was standing with Major Williams. Both men were watching her with expressions of pride and expectation. Major Williams gave her a small nod, his way of saying that he trusted her judgment and supported whatever decision she made. What would I need to do to qualify? Maya asked. Colonel Chen smiled. You've already done it. The question is whether you're ready for what comes next. That evening, Maya sat with her father on their back porch, watching the sunset and talking through the opportunity she had been offered. Sergeant Rodriguez listened quietly as she explained about the special training program and what it might lead to. Sounds like the kind of chance that comes along once in a lifetime, he said finally. The kind that can change everything if you're brave enough to take it. What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? Her father was quiet for a moment, looking out at the obstacle course they had built together when she was just a kid, learning to push her limits. Sweetheart, I've watched you prepare for this your whole life. You've never backed down from a challenge, and you've never quit when things got difficult. But more than that, you've learned to lead, to inspire others to be better than they thought they could be. That's not something you can teach in any program. That's something you either have or you don't. So you think I should do it? I think you'd regret it for the rest of your life if you didn't. Maya nodded, knowing her father was right. This was what she had been working toward, even when she didn't know exactly what it was. Everything that had happened over the past few months, meeting Jack, transforming the ROTC program, pushing herself to new levels of performance, had been preparing her for this moment. The next morning, she found Jack in the school parking lot before classes began. He was leaning against his truck, drinking coffee and reading something on his phone. I've made my decision, Maya said, without preamble. Jack looked up, his expression neutral, but his eyes alert. And? I'm in. Whatever this program is, wherever it leads, I'm ready. Jack smiled, and for the first time since she had known him, he looked genuinely relieved. I hoped you'd say that. Because starting next week, your real training begins. Everything we've done so far has just been preparation. Are you ready to find out what you're really capable of? Maya thought about all the barriers that had seemed impossible to break, all the doors that had appeared permanently closed. Now, standing in a school parking lot in small-town Texas, she realized that sometimes the most important changes happened quietly when people were willing to invest in potential rather than just accepting limitations. I've been ready my whole life, she said. I just didn't know it until now. The bus that picked up Maya at dawn wasn't what she had expected. Instead of military transport, it was a plain white van with tinted windows and no identifying markings. The driver was a woman in civilian clothes who checked Maya's identification against a list before nodding her inside. Maya was surprised to find she wasn't alone. 4 other young people sat in the van, all around her age but clearly from different backgrounds. There was Marcus, a stocky African-American kid with calloused hands who looked like he had spent his life working with them. Sarah was a quiet Asian girl with wire-rimmed glasses who kept a thick book open in her lap. Tyler appeared to be a surfer type from California, blonde and tan with an easy smile that didn't quite mask the intelligence in his eyes. Finally, there was Elena, a Latina girl with short-cropped hair and the kind of alertness that reminded Maya of Jack. Any of you know where we're going? Marcus asked after an hour of highway driving. Some kind of training facility, Elena replied. That's all they told me. You? Same thing. Advanced Leadership Development, they called it. My recruiter said it was invitation only. Maya listened to the conversation without joining in, studying her fellow passengers and trying to figure out what they all had in common. They were clearly from different parts of the country, different backgrounds, different military programs. But there was something similar about all of them, a quality she couldn't quite define. The van turned off the highway onto a narrow road that wound through dense forest. After another hour, they reached a gate marked only with a number and a small security checkpoint. Guards in civilian clothes checked their IDs again before waving them through. The facility beyond the gate looked like a cross between a college campus and a military base. Modern buildings were scattered among the trees, connected by walking paths and surrounded by training areas that included obstacle courses, shooting ranges, and what appeared to be mock urban environments. "Welcome to the Foundation," said a voice from behind them as they climbed out of the van. Maya turned to see a woman in her 30s wearing military-style clothing, but no rank insignia. She had short red hair and the kind of confidence that came from years of experience in challenging situations. "I'm Instructor Walsh," the woman continued. "For the next 8 weeks, I'll be responsible for determining whether any of you have what it takes to move to the next level of training. Before we begin, understand this. Everything you do here is voluntary, but nothing you experience here is a game. The scenarios are real, the standards are unforgiving, and failure has consequences." She led them to a briefing room where a dozen other candidates were already seated. Maya scanned the group, noting the same qualities she had observed in the van. These were young people who had been selected for something special, though none of them knew exactly what that something was. Over the next hour, Instructor Walsh explained the program. It was officially called the Advanced Leadership Initiative, but everyone referred to it simply as the Foundation. The stated purpose was to identify and develop the next generation of military leaders, with a focus on unconventional thinking and adaptability. Traditional military training focuses on following orders and operating within established structures, Walsh explained. This program is different. We're looking for people who can think independently, lead by example, and find solutions when the rulebook doesn't apply. The first week was designed to break down preconceptions and establish baseline capabilities. Maya found herself pushed harder than she had ever been pushed, even during her training with Jack. The physical demands were extreme, but the mental challenges were even more difficult. They were given leadership scenarios with no clear right answers, forced to make decisions with incomplete information, and constantly evaluated on criteria that were never fully explained. Maya watched several candidates wash out in the first few days, unable to handle the pressure or uncertainty. The key, Elena told her one evening as they recovered from a particularly brutal day of training, is not to try to figure out what they want. Just be yourself and trust your instincts. Maya took that advice to heart as the training intensified. They were taught advanced tactics, unconventional warfare techniques, and psychological operations. But more than that, they were taught to think like special operations personnel, to see opportunities where others saw obstacles. During the third week, they began working with active duty Special Forces personnel who served as instructors and evaluators. Maya recognized the type immediately. These were people like Jack, operators who had seen action in the most challenging environments the military had to offer. Rodriguez, one of them called out during a tactical exercise. You're team leader. Your mission is to infiltrate that building and retrieve intelligence without being detected. Your team has been compromised and 2 members are injured. What's your plan? Maya studied the scenario for a moment, weighing options and considering variables. The building was a mock-up of a foreign embassy, complete with security measures and role-playing guards. Her team consisted of Marcus, Sarah, and Tyler, each with different strengths and current limitations due to their simulated injuries. Marcus, you're our heavy lifter, but you're dealing with a shoulder injury. I need you on Overwatch with the long gun, covering our exit route. Sarah, your analytical skills are our biggest asset. I want you running communications and monitoring security patterns from the van. Tyler, you're coming with me. Your leg injury means you can't run, but you're still mobile enough for close quarters work. She outlined a plan that played to each team member's strengths while accounting for their limitations. The instructors watched intently as she led the operation, adapting in real time as new complications arose. The exercise lasted 3 hours, with constant changes to the scenario designed to test their ability to think under pressure. Maya found herself drawing on everything Jack had taught her about leadership and decision-making, combined with new techniques she was learning at the Foundation. When it ended, the lead instructor gathered them for a debrief. Rodriguez, walk us through your decision to change the approach when the primary entry point was compromised. Maya explained her reasoning, discussing the factors that had influenced her choice and how she had communicated the change to her team. The instructor asked follow-up questions, probing deeper into her tactical thinking and leadership style. Good work, he said finally. You demonstrated the kind of adaptive leadership we're looking for. But more importantly, you kept your team focused and confident even when the situation became chaotic. As the weeks progressed, Maya began to understand that the Foundation was identifying candidates for something much more significant than advanced leadership training. The techniques they were learning, the scenarios they were practicing, the instructors who were evaluating them, all of it pointed toward preparation for special operations roles that didn't officially exist yet. During the 6th week, Instructor Walsh pulled Maya aside for a private conversation. They walked through the facility's grounds, past training areas where other candidates were pushing themselves to their limits. You've performed exceptionally well, Walsh said. Your scores are in the top 5%. Your leadership abilities are natural and effective, and you've shown the kind of mental resilience we need for advanced operations." Maya felt a surge of pride mixed with apprehension. "Thank you, ma'am. What happens next?" "That depends on several factors," Walsh replied. "First, you need to understand what you're being considered for. The military is changing, Maya. Barriers that have existed for decades are being reevaluated based on capability rather than demographics. Special operations units are beginning to recognize that they need the best people, regardless of gender or background." They stopped at an overlook that provided a view of the entire facility. Maya could see candidates working through various training exercises, each one pushing themselves beyond what they had thought possible. "There are opportunities opening up in special operations that didn't exist when you first started training," Walsh continued. "Pilot programs, experimental units, roles that require exactly the kind of skills and mindset you've demonstrated. But accepting those opportunities means accepting risks and challenges that go beyond anything you've experienced so far." Maya thought about everything that had brought her to this moment. The early morning runs with her father, the struggling ROTC program that Jack had helped transform, the months of preparation that had led to her selection for the foundation. All of it had been building toward this conversation. "What kind of risks?" she asked. "The kind that come with being a pioneer," Walsh said. "You wouldn't just be joining an established unit with clear protocols and support systems. You'd be helping to create something new, proving that it can work, dealing with skepticism and resistance from people who don't believe change is necessary. And if I succeed? If you succeed, you'll be part of the most elite military units in the world. You'll have opportunities to serve your country in ways that matter, to make a real difference in situations where failure isn't an option." Maya looked out over the training facility, thinking about the journey that had brought her here. 6 months ago, she had been a high school student with big dreams but limited options. Now she was being offered the chance to break barriers and serve at the highest level. "How many others are being considered for these opportunities?" she asked. "From this group? 3, maybe 4. Nationwide? Perhaps a dozen. This is the beginning of something significant, but it's still very small and very selective." That evening, Maya called her father from one of the facility's secure phones. She couldn't tell him specifics about the training or the opportunities being offered, but she could share her general situation and ask for his guidance. "Sounds like they're offering you a chance to be part of history," he said after listening to her carefully worded explanation. "The kind of chance that comes with no guarantees but unlimited potential." "I'm scared," Maya admitted. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail?" "Sweetheart, fear is just your brain's way of telling you that something matters. You've been preparing for this your entire life, even when you didn't know what you were preparing for. Trust your training, trust your instincts, and trust that you wouldn't be there if you didn't belong." The final 2 weeks of the foundation program were the most intense yet. The candidates who remained were pushed to their absolute limits, tested in scenarios that replicated the pressure and complexity of real special operations missions. Maya found herself working closely with Marcus, Elena, and Tyler, the 4 of them forming a natural team that seemed to complement each other's strengths. They completed missions that required them to think like special operators, move like special operators, and make the kind of split-second decisions that could mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. On the final day, Instructor Walsh gathered the remaining candidates for individual evaluations. Maya was called into a conference room where she faced a panel of senior military officers, including Colonel Chen and Dr. Harrison, who had observed her original demonstration at Jefferson High. "Ms. Rodriguez," Colonel Chen began, "you've completed one of the most demanding selection processes in the military. Your performance has been exceptional, and you've demonstrated exactly the kind of leadership and adaptability we need for the challenges ahead." Dr. Harrison leaned forward. "The question now is whether you're ready to take the next step. What we're offering you is a chance to join an experimental unit that will be testing new approaches to special operations. You'll be among the first women to serve in certain roles, which means you'll face scrutiny and pressure that your male counterparts won't experience." Maya thought about Major Williams and how he had overcome his own challenges to become an effective leader again. She thought about Jack and his quiet confidence in her abilities. Most of all, she thought about her father and the values he had instilled in her about service and sacrifice. "Ma'am, sir," she said, looking directly at each panel member. "I didn't come this far to back down now. Whatever challenges come with this opportunity, I'm ready to face them." Colonel Chen smiled. "We hoped you'd say that. Welcome to Task Force Valor, Maya. Your real training starts next month." 3 months later, Maya stood in the briefing room of a classified facility, wearing the uniform of a unit that officially didn't exist. Around her sat 11 other operators, men and women who had been selected for their exceptional capabilities rather than their demographics. Their first mission briefing was about to begin, and Maya felt the familiar mixture of nerves and excitement that came with stepping into the unknown. She thought about the journey that had brought her here. From a struggling high school ROTC program to one of the most elite units in the military. Her phone buzzed with a text message from Jack. "Saw the news about women in special operations. Couldn't be prouder. Show them what we already knew, that excellence has no gender." Maya smiled and put her phone away as the mission commander entered the briefing room. Outside, she could see new candidates arriving for selection, young people who were just beginning the journey she had completed. Some of them would make it through the process and some wouldn't. But all of them would have the chance to try, and that made all the difference. The mission commander called the room to attention, and Maya stood with her teammates, ready to prove that the barriers that had once seemed unbreakable could indeed be shattered by people willing to work hard enough and sacrifice enough to earn their place. She had always dreamed of serving her country at the highest level. Now, finally, she was exactly where she belonged.